Good morning. This is Pastor Zach with the Goodland United Methodist Church with your morning devotion for Friday, June 1st. Today I'll be reading from Mark chapter 2, verse 23 through chapter 3, verse 6. One Sabbath he was going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are you doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And he said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of food? He entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which it is not lawful for any but the priest to eat, and he gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath." Again he entered the synagogue, and a man was there who had a withered hand. They watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at their hardness of heart and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. You see, as early on in Mark's gospel, we see the Pharisees were already out to get Jesus. They already were looking for ways to destroy him and rid him, to continue to keep their status and their power. Today's gospel shows again the problems that Jesus posed for the authorities of his day. The issue is in question is the purpose of the Sabbath. The law governing the Sabbath had its origin in the Ten Commandments given to Moses. But by the time Jesus had become more and more complex, rules governing the lighting of fires, precisely what counted as work and what did not, even the distance someone could walk on the Sabbath, were all laid down and carefully observed. To the Pharisees, picking ears of corn was classed as work, and so forbidden on the Sabbath, even if the disciples were hungry, and this was all they had to eat. But Jesus reminds them of an incident in which David bent the law in order that he and his men could eat. He highlights the fact that a law given for the good of God's people was actually a burden to them now. Instead of enjoying the day of rest and spending precious time in worshiping God, they were concerned not to transgress any of the additional rules imposed on the Sabbath. The Sabbath was given for human creatures, not the other way around. To make his point still further, Jesus goes into the synagogue and brings a man with a withered arm into the middle of the gathering, and then asks a simple question: is it against the law to do good on the Sabbath or to save a life? Needless to say, his critics have no answer, and Jesus becomes angry that they're not prepared to reflect on such a question. You see, I think often in our lives we're in the same position. We worry more about the rules and the tradition and the culture than we do about doing the good work of Christ in all times and all places. You see, the Sabbath is about honoring God, about being in God's presence, and if it means doing good works instead of doing nothing, it's important to do those works, even if it seems out of place because of our traditions and our rules. Our Vacation Bible School at Goodland United Methodist Church begins next Monday. This year's theme is Kingdom Rock, where kids stand strong for God. So we invite children to enter the epic adventure that empowers kids to stand strong. And God's victorious power isn't a fairy tale. It changes kids forever. It's Monday through Friday next week from 6 to 8 p.m. each day at the Goodland United Methodist Church. You can pre-register by going to goodlandumc.org/VBS2018 or find us on Facebook where you'll find the link to the registration form. Have a blessed day.